Chapter 5. 17 Oranges. A boy steals 17 oranges and is caught by a policeman. How does the boy escape punishment? I used to be so fond of oranges that I could suck one after the other the whole day long, until the time when the policeman gave me a scare at the dock gates. He caught me almost red-handed with 17 oranges hidden away in various pockets, and he locked me up. Ever since, I've never looked at an oranges because I had my fill of them on that occasion. I used to drive a little pony and a cart for the Swift Delivery Company in those days, and a lot of my pickups were at the docks. I would put on a handy sample load and be back at the depot before the other carters had watered their mares. Now I was not what you would call a thief, and I did not make a practice of knocking things off just because they didn't belong to me. Nevertheless, it was very rarely that I came away from the docks without something to chew during the day. Say they were unloading a banana boat. Well, I used to draw my little cart alongside. There were often loose bunches that had dropped off the main stalks, and when the chance came, I would either grab some quickly or some friendly foot would push them towards me. Then I used to hide them under my brat. The brat was an apron made from a sugar bag, supposed to be a good protection against rain, but I used mine mostly for concealing things, and for the rest of the day I would be munching away at bananas. I must tell you about my friend Clem Jones. Clem once came out of the gates carrying a box. "What have you got in that box?" asked Pongo, who was the policeman on duty. "A cat," said Clem, "but don't ask me to open it or the fellow will get away." "A cat," said Pongo. "I'm not a fool to believe you. Come on, open the box." Clem wouldn't open the box at first, but when Pongo insisted, he got angry and flung the lid open. Out leapt a ship's cat, which ran back into the docks with Clem running after it, shouting. 2 minutes later, Clem came out with the same box, holding the lid down tight and looking angrily at the grinning Pongo. He looked angry all the way home, until in the privacy of his own kitchen, he opened the box and took out a full-sized Dutch cheese. "I got caught because the string of my brat broke." Pongo, after looking over my load, noticed my somewhat bulging pockets. He made me go into his cabin and searched my pockets. There were 17 oranges in all, and he placed them carefully on the table. "An example has to be made," he said, "of somebody or other, and I think you're the unlucky one. Now, my lad, what have you to say for yourself?" I said nothing. I was very frightened, but I forced myself to keep my mouth shut. I had read too many detective stories to make the mistake of blabbing. "Anything you say may be used in evidence against you." Pongo, who did not care for my attitude, said, "Right then, I'll go off and bring a colleague as a witness," and then he went, carefully locking the door behind him. I felt awful then. I looked at the walls. I looked at the door, I looked at the 17 oranges, and I looked at my brat with the broken string. I thought of how I would get sacked and get sentenced, and of what my mother would say and my father would do. There was no escape. I was there, the evidence was there before me on the table, and Pongo had gone to call his mate to be witness. I was ruined for life. I moaned in anguish. "Whatever shall I do?" "Eat them," spoke a voice in my head. "Eh?" I asked. "Eat them?" "Yes, that's right," replied this inner voice, "and then the evidence will be gone. But be quick about it." I thought for half a second. Then I snatched an orange, peeled it, and popped it into my mouth. I crushed the juice out and swallowed it and the orange. I was just about to spit out the pips when the voice cried, "No? Eh? You have to swallow them too." "What? The pips?" "Yes, peel and all. Evidence." "Oh, of course. and I pushed the pips to the back of my mouth and took a handful of peel to get them down my throat. "Don't bother to chew," said the voice. "It's a race against time." It certainly was a race against time. After that first orange, I took out my penknife, slashed the rest of the oranges into chunks, and gulped them down as fast as I could. I still had 3 oranges left to be eaten when I heard Pongo and his mate coming back. With a sigh, I gave up, but the voice in my head warned me to continue, saying that the more I ate, the less evidence there would be. And as luck would have it, Pongo and his mate were detained over checking some outgoing vehicles. I set about finishing off those last few oranges, and by the time the key turned in the lock, I was consuming the final piece of the 17 oranges. "This is him," said Pongo to his mate. "I caught him with his pockets full of oranges." Then he looked at the table. "Hi, where are they?" "You," sniffed his mate. "I can smell them." I did not say a word. Pongo began to search. He looked high and low, went through my pockets, felt at my brat, but of course he found no trace of an orange. Finally he figured out what must have happened, but even then he couldn't believe it. 17 oranges, he kept murmuring, big ones at that. How has he managed it? But I said nothing. I could not be charged with stealing because Pongo had no evidence, and because I suppose he did not want to be laughed at. So all he could do was to curse while I kept my lips shut tight, and then he had to let me go. But it was days and days before I could really sit still and think clearly, because those 17 oranges, peels, pips, and all kept working away in my inside. Something